Welcome back to Vegas Live with Ninon. I'm Ninon, your host, and now we're going to a different side of life. You know, we have the fun side, we have the entertainment side, and now we're going, as my next guest said, she said, I'm kind of behind the scenes all the time. I'm not in front of the camera. She's obviously very rarely gets in front of the camera because she is an author, and her name is Jeannie Neill, and she goes under J.D. Neill. And I remember J.D. because my husband's name was J.D., James DeRosa, so it was J.D., so I can't forget your name. And you are an author. These are her books. She's how many books have you written?
I've written 8.
8 books?
Yes, I started in 2019, so it's kind
Wait a second, that's only 2 years ago.
Yes.
So
COVID
did
has really
this
helped.
inspiration, what happened? You suddenly decided you'd become a writer?
No, I used to write articles, and in school I used to write and so on. And then when I was, I went to teach English in Lebanon, in Beirut.
Wait a second. She doesn't know this. Number one, she's English. I'm English. I lived in Beirut for 2 years.
You're kidding?
No. Lived there for 2 years.
Wow.
Yes, so we have something in common we didn't know. See, that's how life is. It's amazing.
That's amazing.
Where did you live in
I
Beirut?
lived in Na'ash. It was up in the hills above Ashrafia.
I know exactly where it was.
Yes.
Yes, after in the mountains where, you know, in Lebanon, or Beirut, all the families would go up to the mountains in the summer and they'd have these big mezzanines, you know, all these foods that was like 30, 40 plates of different foods that you would all eat. And the mezzanine, yes. And you'd have all these different foods and everything, and then you'd be by the lake and it was beautiful.
Yes.
What was that? Babylon, was it?
It was
the theatre?
Babda, or Baalbek.
Baalbek is all the ruins and everything, and that's where they have the theatre.
It's amazing.
How long were you there?
I was there for nearly 5 years.
I was there for 2 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I was there at the start of the Civil War. And my husband, and I were trapped in our home for 3 months. And they turned off the electricity and the water, and there was a gun truck outside. And so while that was going on, I started keeping a diary to kind of keep me sane, really, about what was happening. And then years later, I tried to turn it into a script. And I was doing some film production and...
So you've kind of been
behind the scenes,
yes.
Always behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, but also in the art business and knowing how it all works, which is perfect.
Yeah. So my first book, which is in that little pile, is called Disintegration, and it came from that diary. It's
Let's just take this down.
This one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, and it was born from...
That's the book. This is your first book.
It was my first
book. This is your first book, and she wrote this in 2019.
Yes.
And now she has 5. She's written 5 books.
8
books.
So 5 here and 3 more.
She's got 3 more. She's got all these books, and you've written those all in like 2 years. Not even 2 years.
Yes. Yeah, well, because
she must be a speed writer.
You know, it's interesting. When I first started, I thought I have ideas for 6 books.
Yes.
And I thought, well, you know, I'm getting on in years, and I'll get to do it before I die. But then COVID came. And you're sort of stuck at home. And what are you going to do?
Perfect timing for you.
It's perfect.
See how you can take advantage of something that's a disadvantage?
Yeah. So basically I write 8 hours a day, every day. And the books started to pile up.
To manifest all these stories.
So,
now, what do you kind of write about?
Well,
what was your first one?
Well, Disintegration is based on... it's the juxtaposition of the disintegration of a couple who are... You know, they go to this wonderful country. As you know, Beirut was a wonderful country.
Paradise of the Middle East.
It was. So they go to this wonderful life, just ordinary kids from England, and they have this amazing opportunity. And then as the war starts, and factions develop, and people start hating
each
one
other,
another, the country disintegrates and their relationship disintegrates. So it's the two.
A disintegration of life.
Yes, it is.
And country... And buildings and everything else, because you saw all that.
We did. And whilst we're trapped together, it's an enormous pressure, you know, on a couple, and you turn on each other, and you know. So anyway, that was the start of that. That was that book.
Yes.
And then I just started having ideas.
So you said all these ideas. So that's that book. And which is your next book?
The next one was Chameleon.
This is Chameleon.
Yes.
Isn't that? I love the colour of this.
It's a great cover.
Yes,
isn't
and
it?
the covers and the colour is beautiful. So what is this? This is like
it's a story. It's a story of a girl who is ignored by her parents because the mother has got some psychological problems and takes all the attention of the father. They're a wealthy family, And she just wants to be seen and to be loved.
To be loved, yes.
And then she, as the story develops, she realizes the only way she gets seen is by pretending to be somebody else.
Wow.
So all the way through the story, she's taking on different kind of characteristics.
And where did you get that idea from? There must have been somewhere something happened.
Yeah, I was standing at the supermarket, Red Till, and I saw the National Enquirer, and there was a thing on there about, there was a thing that I read that somebody was collecting people's social security number by bringing people to stay and then putting their bodies in vats, and they just killing them and then collecting the money. And I thought, that's an odd
thing to do, actually. Quite.
And so as I was thinking about it, I thought, people can do all these things, and you don't
people
even
can do
know.
anything.
They can do anything.
Yes.
And this girl, as she's going along, she facilitates. She doesn't actually until the end actually do anything, but she facilitates the death of first her mother, who is suicidal. Yeah. She facilitates the death of the woman that her father then falls in love with, who is the nurse of her mother. Then so she keeps on doing this, always trying to get love.
Trying to get the attention.
And
she needs attention.
She does. And anyway, there's a twist. So I'm not going to tell you the twist because it's a big twist in the story. And it takes place between
That
Italy.
sounds like the most exciting part, the twist. Why can't you tell me? It's in a book.
I've got to buy it.
Oh, you've got to buy it. Okay.
And it takes place between Italy, because I lived in Italy for a couple of years, and Boston. No, not Boston. Massachusetts, but generally, but not Boston.
Yeah.
So that was that one. Then after that, I had the idea of unraveling.
Unraveling. There are all such different titles and sort of different.
Yes,
another one. You seem to go in a sort of a direction which most people don't really go in.
Right. They're all very different stories.
Yes, I can see each one has got kind of its own little glitch in there.
So with unraveling, there was I met a woman once who had been married many times, like 13 or 15 times or something.
Oh my goodness!
And she also had. Halfway through, she only had one leg. She'd lost her leg in an accident, and I thought at one time she might be an interesting story for a real life story. And then I thought, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and do the wrong thing. And so in the end, I just invented this woman.
Yes, so it wasn't on any person.
It was inspired by
your mind, and what you thought and how you would put this together.
Right. It was inspired by meeting her, but this woman's it's a very different thing. For most of the book, she's in a coma.
Oh, well, that could be something different.
Yeah, and so she can hear and see everything that's going on, and she has kind of an amusing take sometimes on things, but nobody knows.
But so don't you. You have an amusing take, because otherwise you couldn't write that unless you're thinking of all these strange and different things of somebody else.
Yes.
Do any of your stories that you write, are any of them connected to how you are or how you think, or is any of that put in there that you've gone through some kind of phase of your life?
I suppose, I mean, a lot of the places that are in there in the stories and so on come from places I've been.
You've been, yes.
And
so you
some
have
of the
a connection
experience there's a connection.
And that would be an experience not actually of yourself, but an experience you've had with somebody else that's brought this story to you and said, well, maybe I could write a story about this.
Yes.
Well, not maybe, she did. It's not a maybe.
Well, and then this one, because she was a model and she's become very wealthy for various. She's been married 8 times, I think, maybe 9. I can't remember.
a lot, put it this way.
A lot of time. And she's got a couple of girlfriends who are after the money. And now that she's in the coma, they all end up at her bedside because they're thinking she's going to die. And some of them just think, will we inherit? So
they will inherit the money. So they're going to be, how much I love you so much.
Yes. So this is the story of her life with those people, how they came to play.
You'd have to do the her will out before she got the coma, and she probably wasn't prepared to write.
There is a will, but nobody knows where to find a caveat that's in the will, that who decides on whether to pull the plug or not.
So no one knows which one it is.
No one. Somebody will have the right to pull the plug on her, but they don't know who it is.
They don't know
have to find out who it is. And some of them love her, and some of them just want the money. So it's a.
That sounds like typical life. That is typical life.
Yeah,
that is how life is.
It covers Australia, Hawaii, Hong Kong.
And because these are all different places where she lived.
Yeah, and
got married at. And did she have children? I mean,
she had a daughter who abandons her at some point. Well, after she starts marrying again.
Yes.
And then she has. She has a son, and after she leaves the first husband, he keeps the child because of the choice she made.
Yeah.
And then she has a daughter who abandons her because she keeps
marrying. So she's a bit of a scallywag.
Well, I would say she's a romantic.
Oh, she's always looking for the love of life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and she
never really finds it because she's never satisfied with any of them.
At the end of the book, she does.
Oh, how wonderful! Yeah. So it's got a happy ending.
It's got a happy ending.
Okay, next one.
The Loophole.
Well, this sounds interesting. Now,
I've had good reviews on Loophole.
What I've noticed is you're always writing about women.
Yes. Although the one that I'm just finishing now, it's not published yet, but the one I'm just finishing now has really 3 protagonists, and it's 2 women who are doppelgangers. They look exactly alike.
Oh, really?
And a man who happens to meet both of them, and anyway, so
he gets muddled up as which one he's dating. Who was it tonight? Oh, they both look alike. I don't know who it is.
No, this one. I read. I was swimming one morning, and I thought, God, it's so wonderful to be, free and be able to swim. And I was thinking about people trapped in apartments during COVID and how difficult it must be. And then I sort of started thinking about people who are. I don't know why I did, but people who are ill, terminally ill, and can't do anything with themselves. And Loophole is essentially about a loophole in the insurance law that existed, whereby if people committed suicide, even though they were terminally ill or had euthanasia, their families wouldn't get the payout on the life insurance policy. And so this family company starts up with the idea that, this is an opportunity for business. We'll have them killed. It'll be a murder. Oh, no. They'll get the money. The families will get the money. So the people want to be murdered. They pay 10% of the insurance policy to these people to do it.
To murder these people to get the money. Well, I think this is quite a common thing, actually, isn't it?
Well, what the trouble is that they find orphans, girls, who have no, connections or whatever, young and innocent, and they convince them various stories. One is supposed to be a model, one is supposed to be, whatever they are, they convince them to be at the place when the murder takes place. Yes. And so they get accused and they get put in jail.
And they haven't really done anything.
They haven't done anything. And so the insurance investigator, while he's trying to solve it and stop paying out money, also meets the girls in the jail, falls for one of them, and is trying to get them free.
Then he's trying to get them free, also get the money. It's all about money and sex and all that stuff. And then this is the
shattering effect.
Shattering effect. I would imagine with all these books and what's going on, it was a shattering effect. That's the book. Well, which is amazing.
This one, I kind of wove it between fiction and real life events. So I had this girl who is born, the girl who's on the cover. I wrote at a writing class I did at UCLA many years ago. I had a piece that I had to write, and I wrote this paragraph, and it's just been sitting around for years. And one day I picked it up, and I thought, that could be a story.
I could make a story out of this one.
And she's washed up on the shore. She's sitting on the shore of England, Littlehampton, Rustington actually. She's sitting there on the rock, yes. And it's November, and it's cold, and it's the afternoon, and she's in Gucci and very light, clothes. Yes, yeah. And across the way is a convalescent home, and the doctor from there and his brother come for a walk, and there's another shadowy figure kind of watching to see what happens. And they see this girl, and she's catatonic, and they think if she doesn't move, in England you have very big tides.
Yes.
That will
they go
for half a mile or more.
Yes.
And if she sits there, she's going to be swept away.
Swept away.
So they save her and take her into this hospital, but she's silent, and she doesn't want to know, she doesn't know. They try to help her, and they think, she's only just 18, and they find she's pregnant. And they don't know what's happened to her or why, but this shadowy figure suddenly appears one day to work there. And this woman has been sent to watch this girl. And this girl is the daughter of a ruler in an unnamed Arabic country. And she was going to be married off at the age of 18 to her old uncle, who's the ruler.
Because that's what they do in the Middle East. Yeah, they do that all the time. The uncles, the cousins marry.
That's right.
And they do that purposely to keep the money in the family. Yes.
But this uncle has had daughters, but only 4 sons who all died at birth. And he needs a son to inherit. And he thinks this, young girl
is going to bear a son.
Yeah. So anyway, there's the whole story. So her mother, who's English, sets up the escape for this girl. The girl escapes. The mother is stoned to death. And so it's a very, dramatic thing.
That's very dramatic. And this is now. How do you get these ideas? This is obviously something you wrote when you were,
the idea came just from the girl on the coast, and I didn't know who she was or how she got there or what her story was. Yeah. So I started writing, and then it turns out that the person who is the father of her children was her childhood love and a cousin. As they were trying to escape, he was helping her escape, and he turns into one of the terrorists in the world and goes eventually to work for Osama bin Laden, but he's a...
Well, this is getting thick and heavy here now.
He's a fundraiser. He's not a fighter or a killer.
No, but he raises money
for it because he's so angry at his uncle and the regime.
So he's got hate within him.
Yeah. And it turns out in the end that the man she marries... I'm telling the whole story. Nobody will
know. I'm not going to buy the book now. Yeah, they'll still buy it.
It's interwoven. With the London bombing, with things that happen.
So you've actually put stories together on a lot of realistic things that have happened and made a kind of a story out of it, of one person going through all these different things and bringing in all these different elements to create it. Do you want any of these books to become movies? Have you ever thought of that?
In fact, I worked for some years with a Dutch film director and producer, and we used to package films.
Yeah. Oh.
And so one of the things I did while we were trying to look at films was I read scripts all the time.
Oh, yes.
And so when I write, I have a tendency to write cinematically, I think.
So
they would all translate.
Easily, so they can all translate into a movie, because that's one of the greatest things that you can possibly do. I'm doing a biography of myself at the moment. Someone's, asking me questions and everything, which eventually I want to make into a movie, and sort of, because it's the excitement of life.
Yeah.
So your next book, you said, is a little different.
Well, I've got a book that I don't want to really necessarily talk much about, but I've written a book that's a memoir, and it's called The Jailbird's Daughter, because my father spent 25 years of his life in jail.
Oh, what did he do?
It was a series of different things, but
And he did this in England?
Yes.
Okay.
And
so he was about... This is real life?
It's real life.
So you had... we're going different direction.
This one I haven't published. It's written, and I'm waiting to decide what to do with it.
You don't know if you want it, but you have it. Now, so what was your life growing up as a young girl?
It was... there was a lot of love and a lot of violence and chaos. Okay. So it was a mixture, but I had there was a lot of love.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have. I'm the eldest. I have had 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I have a brother who died young, and I had wonderful grandparents, and so I think I was very.
You was brought up quite well, although your father was a bit naughty.
We were poor.
Yeah.
Because my parents married very young. I was 18 when my mother was 18 when I was born. They had 5 kids. There was not a lot of money, in England at that time, and so we were poor. But they were very, very particular about how we were raised.
But it's funny in England. You can have culture, but you don't necessarily have money. Culture in England is more important, actually, because I come from a good family. We didn't have much money, and I don't think in those days anybody really had much money anyway. But the culture, my father was very strict, and they were antique dealers, so there was a lot of knowledge. My mother was brilliant, and both of them were very, very brilliant, but in England or Britain, it doesn't necessarily make you somebody honourable by having money. It's more of how you talk, how you're brought up, and how you're raised. Isn't it? It's different. Very different.
It's different.
America is more, how much money do you have? What's the bottom line? Doesn't matter where you come from, what culture you have. Doesn't make any difference. It's how much money you have.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a different system.
It's a different. So how do you like living in America now, or living in Vegas? Actually, I don't know, what are we doing in Vegas? English women in Vegas.
I love America. I'm sad about all of the chaos that's been happening. I won't talk about it, but it makes me very sad because coming to America for me, it was a dream. It was a wonderful country with opportunities that I could never have imagined.
Yes.
And I married, and I had a son. Who's grown now, and now I have 2 grandchildren as well.
Oh, how wonderful.
But about 20 years ago, I met through a mutual acquaintance a man that I am now married to, and he's Australian. And so from the end part of my life, you know, for the last 20 years and forever, he's the man of my life. And we have a home in Australia, but we can't go back.
Not yet.
No. And then when my son had a child here, we decided that we needed to live in Vegas.
You need to live in Vegas, stay in Vegas when you're next to your son.
Yes, and when the grandchild was born.
So you finished that book. Have you got anything in mind for the next one?
I've got one that's coming out in May, and it's called Downfall.
Okay. Is that about another woman?
It actually starts out about a man. It starts in England and comes to America.
Okay.
And by the time he's 21, he's made $1 million.
Oh, wow.
But he's a bit of a scallywag. And
scallywag. It's one of our English terminologies.
And he marries, and they have a child. And it's fine for a while, but as he gets more and more wealthy, he realizes he didn't really want to be married with a child.
In the first place.
Yeah, and he's got all these opportunities with women and so on and so forth. So he
starts playing around.
And then she says, you know, she can't deal with it. She's Catholic and she can't get a divorce. And the little daughter's watching, and he comes and visits the wife regularly, but confusing for the child. Yeah. And eventually she grows to hate him. Eventually. Yeah. But when the mother sort of commits suicide. When he falls in love, finally, and marries this girl, an English girl, and the daughter decides that one day she's going to have her revenge. And so, like completely different from Chameleon, where the daughter wants the father's love, this one wants his downfall.
She wants to get rid of him.
Yeah. So there's the whole story of some of his relationships, some of his business dealings. You know, he's he becomes a billionaire.
You actually write a little bit of what life is, actually, the normal part of how life is created, what we do in it, and why we do it, and how we do it. And that's how we kind of do it all, isn't it? Yeah. How can anybody reach you?
I have a website, jdneillbooks.com.
jdneillbooks.com.
Neill, that's 2 L's. Okay. And that's the best.
That's the best place to get you. Yeah. Any advice to the younger generation on writing?
You know, it's hard for me because I started late.
Yeah, but look what you did in 2 years. It was like all your living sort of came out in the books.
Yes, it came
into fruition.
It
was very useful.
You know, I think honestly that I've even noticed it myself. The more you write, the better you get.
Like anything.
Yeah. I've taken a number of courses to try to become more proficient and skillful, and the secret is to just do it.
Yes, that's the secret of life, actually. You've just said a great word, is just do it. And that applies to anything. It doesn't matter what everybody out there has something within them that they can do. Yes. You found yours later, but you still did all that other stuff before that you liked, which was in the entertainment business and film business. So you enjoyed that, and then she brought it out in her books. You've been an amazing guest, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Absolutely amazing. We'll be right back. Don't forget to go to Vegas Live with Ninon on YouTube and subscribe and check us all out, and also become a guest on the show. We'll welcome any guest to come on the show. You don't have to exactly live in Vegas. You can fly in and be on the show, but we do it live on set. We'll be right back with our next guest. Take care. If you enjoyed the last show we just did and all the other shows, don't forget to subscribe. Vegas Live with Ninon on YouTube. We've got plenty more coming up, and our guests are amazing. So don't forget to subscribe. We'll be right back. Vegas Live with Ninon.